Welcome to growthtofreedom.com, the show that brings you inspiration, transformation, and leadership. We're helping you connect the dots, see the blind spots, and get unstuck so you can go out and create more sales, more revenue, more growth, more profits. More importantly, so you can have a bigger impact, have a bigger reach, and make a bigger contribution. Is that what you want? If that's what you want, then you are going to love today's guest expert, who's someone I've learned from since the late 1980s. What he does is he helps build sales champions. Would you like to improve your sales? Would you like to have proven strategies that are timeless, that are strategies that worked in the 1980s, 90s, 2000s, and still work even today, decades and decades later? Well, guess what? You're going to learn from a living legend. If I were you, I'd grab a pen, I'd grab a piece of paper, I'd jot down. So if you're driving, do me a favor, pull over right now. I know you got a meeting to get to. You want to cancel that meeting. Send the text. I'm going to be a little late. Grab this information. The gentleman you're going to get a chance to hear from, his name is Tom Hopkins. He has produced thousands and thousands and impacted millions and millions of people through his variety of resources, videos, books, training programs, live events, virtual events, and a whole lot more. I got introduced to Tom Hopkins all the way back in the late 1980s with one of his original books, which is a multiple New York Times best-selling book. I don't know how many Tom have sold, but I've got to believe it's in close to 1 million people have been impacted over the last 40 years with that amazing classic, How to Master the Art of Selling. And Tom teaches simple strategies that you can put to work, today in your next presentation that maybe is coming up in like 30, 40 minutes. If you want to enroll more people, engage more people, influence more people, close more sales, impact your company, build a better team around producing revenue in a cool, non-hypey way, then you're going to love what Tom has to share with you. Tom, welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, Dan, thank you. I'm excited to be anywhere we can talk about the wonderful art of selling and how it has benefited so many people, including myself. So wonderful to be with you.
Yes. And if you're listening or watching right now, by the way, if you want to come back to this episode, you can do that at growthtofreedom.com/310. That's growthtofreedom.com/310. If you never want to miss an episode, go to growthtofreedom.com/subscribe. That's growthtofreedom.com/subscribe. So, Tom, I want to dive right into it. Selling oftentimes gets like a mixed bag of responses from people. Some people are in a place where, they're like, oh my gosh, selling is amazing. And other people are like, oh, selling is a little hypey or this or that. What are some of the biggest mistakes, Tom, that you see that people have as it relates to selling overall?
Well, one of the things I have found over the years is many people go into sales. Many companies don't have much training in selling. And because of that, they'll meet a consumer who either calls their company or comes into their office, and they won't treat them properly because they're not trained. And so that person walks out saying, that was a pushy salesperson, and I just didn't enjoy the time with them. So that is the main reason that I think there's kind of a stigma worldwide when people hear the word sales or selling, which is certainly not true. If you look at the United States, a free enterprise system, capitalism, it's really based on products making a profit, companies making a profit to their bottom line. And if you analyze how's that done, most of the time there's some person that has a point of sale opportunity, and that person has to put their ego on the line, possibly handle a rejection, and in doing so, create income for the company. So selling is fundamentally so important to our society. And of course, it changed my life. I was a construction worker making $4 an hour. I had no money and no education. I went 90 days to college. And so I was really baffled where I was going to go. And fortunately, after 1 year of construction, my father suggested I look into going into sales and real estate. And I was lucky because I found real estate. It's been 8 glorious years helping people list their homes and sell them or buy properties. And so I had a fabulous 8 years. And, I was very fortunate. And my last year, not meaning to, I just worked my tail off. I sold 365 homes, which is an average of one a day, which had never been done. And when our manager of the office told the people at the National Association of Realtors that I had done that, my phone started ringing off the hook for me to come and teach. And I had never really done a seminar, but I started teaching, and I fell in love with helping people in the field of sales do a better job, help more people say yes to their product. And so that's kind of been my life. Every week for 40 plus years, I get on a plane and fly somewhere in the world, and are flattered to stand in front of hopefully a room full of excited people in the field of sales. And that's me.
That's amazing. And, I imagine over the 40 years of doing what you do, there's, you've had quite a journey of success and, other things along learning opportunities, I think you would call them.
Yes.
What is your definition of sales, Tom? I'd be curious to know.
I would just say professionally helping a person invest and own the benefits of a product or service. And if you notice, they don't really buy the vehicle. They don't buy the home. They don't buy the computer. They invest in what that product will do for them after they own it. And so what you're doing in sales is adding to a person's life, having them have a better life based on the product or the service. And the people right now viewing us that are in sales, if you love your product, love what you do, and like myself, I love teaching. I love helping people, as you mentioned, you went back in the 80s with me. Well, there's a highlight when you can do something for your fellow man that helps them have a better life and then helps them help others, which is what selling really does in our society. So it's been a trip. I've had a blast.
And it's obvious. And, with all the people you've impacted, as you're listening right now, as you're watching right now, like what would happen for you, if you have a team, you have a company with salespeople, how would it shift the game for you if you shifted your culture that you made it around helping people to help people, right? That one little nuance that Tom just shared with you, how would it transform your business? Like, what would it mean for you? What would it give for you? Even someone who's a receptionist, if they knew the culture of your business was all about helping people and you reinforce that every single day, it's a gift to help people. It's what we get to do with people, not to somebody, right? I hope you take that. And again, if you want to come back to this episode, you can do that at growthtofreedom.com/310. Now, Tom, you kind of gave a little bit of an overview of your backstory, the big mistakes most people make or a lot of people make in selling. Can you think back to a time in your journey when, you got up to 365 sales, an average of one a day, which had never been done before? Can you remember like a low point, or like, on that journey of going back years, of course.
Sure.
Like, what was the biggest mistake you made?
Well, first of all, I was only 19 when I got into real estate, which back then was really unheard of. In fact, and I'm not being sexist here, but there were very few teenagers or women, believe it or not, in the real estate business. And of course, that's not true today. Women in the residential real estate field pretty much control most of that. And so it's quite different. I was only 19. I looked young. I didn't even have a car. I was on a motorcycle. And my first 6 months, I only made $42 a month. And fortunately, I went to a seminar, and the person teaching it said, find someone who makes a lot of money doing what you do, humble yourself, ask if they can help you. And there was a woman in California named Rose Lane, who was probably the highest income real estate agent in California. I can almost be sure of that. Well, I tracked her down and said, I'm 19, I'm in real estate, but I'm doing nothing. Would you mind if I came by and maybe visited with you? And then I asked her if I could go on a listing appointment with her and then also get in the back of the car like a trainee when she showed homes. And God bless her, she let me do that. And I was like a sponge, Dan. I listened to every word she said. I listened to the nuances. I made notes. And I took her teaching. And fortunately, that turned my life around. And the next year, I had a decent year. The following year, a very good year. And it was my fourth year, believe it or not, that I hit the 365 homes. And my manager called me in. He said, Tom, do you realize you've done something that we don't think has ever been done? And I said, what's that? He said, you're averaging, it was about November 15th, you're on target to sell a home a day based on the number of homes you're selling. And if you do that, and we can broadcast that, and the general manager wanted to promote me and the company for recruiting purposes. And so I said, well, whatever. And sure enough, once they got that out, my phone started ringing like crazy. And I started doing seminars, teaching people. And that has been, the highlight of my life is the letters I receive from people who've gone through our training. And it let me kind of teach them this wonderful people skill business. And please realize I have a foundation called Love People and Use Money. Don't use people and love money. And this is so important that people feel you care more about them than making the sale. And you'll make more sales because you're not selling, you're really thinking serving. And be a servant to your fellow man. And if you are, and they feel the servant attitude, they'll want to do business with you not only once, but many times. And the nice part is they'll refer others to you because of the nice job you do with them. So that's kind of an important key to why I think I've been so blessed in this wonderful profession called selling.
And as you're listening or watching right now, what could you take from that? Right? Number one, find someone who has the results you want and find a way to get around them, to mirror them, to model them, to shadow them. Right? You learn more by getting a mentor like this in this type of, hyper culture of watching, listening, observing, but then being a student and then, of course, implementing what you'd learned. Right? Tom didn't get where he is by sitting back and then reading his notes. He got it and applied it. He went out and did it. He, generated 3. But what could you learn from this? What could you do to create your own mini training system for your team, where your best reps essentially kind of become mentors to mentees in your company, right? It's not as complicated as you've been led to believe if you're willing to focus on training and also willing to do the little things that matter. Now, Tom, the world has changed and been disrupted over the last, number one, with technology. And then, we've hit this, depending on when someone's watching this, we're in the midst of like this big COVID crisis that we're in, so as you view it, like you continue to work with thousands and thousands of people all over the world, applying what you show them with, serving, selling, and helping people. Like, what are 1 to 3 strategies that you could share with our viewers or listeners that are the game changers, or like what we refer to as the needle movers and breakthroughs that they could walk out?
Well, the first thing you have to realize is you cannot let the negativity in a marketplace slow you down. See, a lot of things that happen, Dan, are people start talking about the times we're in, that no one's maybe buying because of the pandemic, and everybody's kind of nervous. Yeah, but the pro says, look, I don't care. I'm going to still talk to so many people a day, make so many calls a day. keep my activity levels up. Because see, if you slow your activity down, 60 days later, your productivity is down. So you're going to limit your income if you listen to the negativity of in the world and not go out and make more calls or keep up your activity. See, that's one of the first things I want to have people realize is, number one, pay fast attention to the details with your people. Make more contacts, up your activities as things are even tougher economically. Because the pro says, I don't care what happens in the world. I have a business. I like my product, my service. I'm going to keep up my activities. And you work through these times, and you're always a top producer because your activity will determine productivity. So keep on moving, keep excited. Love what you do to serve your fellow man with the benefits of what your product or service does. And if you do that, in a year from now, believe me, as all things get turned around, they always do. Life is a cycle. Business is a cycle. We have these periods of insecurity or lack of productivity, just life. But, the pro always says, hey, someone's going to be in the top 5% of the income earners in the country. And one of those people is going to be me, regardless of what happens in the world or the country or the economy. Okay.
And as you're listening or watching, think about the power of what Tom just said. Keep it going, keep it moving, right? Focus on, the activity, those things that matter, like how many people a day, right? And also focusing on, tracking with your people, being engaged with your people, keeping the expectation that, hey, in spite of all of this, we can still thrive. We can still grow. We can still impact and help more people. In fact, we're here to help more people with what we do. How would it shift the game for you? Just those simple couple concepts. Tom, I want to point out something from you. As you're sharing this, you just made me realize, I come from a sports background. So I was, basically a baseball player, love all kinds of sports. But in your book, How to Master the Art of Selling, one of the things I remember jumping out that really impacted me heavily, that ties in with these couple strategies you're sharing right now, is tracking, right? Is tracking. Like how many people a day, and literally setting up your numbers so you know that, like, okay, if I have 5 presentations a day, I might enroll, if I'm a brand new person, which in the early days I was terrible at selling, like it would take 1 out of 50 for me to enroll someone, right? And not much revenue from that sale. And then over time it got better, but it gave a gauge. And I look at sports as full of statistics and data. Speak to tracking, because it's so shocking to me how many people I meet. I go, hey, how many conversations did you or your team have this week about your services? And they go, I'm not sure. Or 1 or 2.
Well,
right.
And you're hitting on such an important item too. I went to a seminar, and again, I became a junkie to learn from the successful people. And the man said, put in your pocket every morning the number of cards that you'll commit to not come back to you. Now, this is back in the early times when we all had business cards, which today it's all much different. But I did that. See, I've been a follow-up specialist with what people teach that are successful. And so I did that. I start putting every morning 20 business cards. And you that are watching, start doing another thing. On your business card in the front, with a blue pen, not a black pen to look like it was printed on there, but with a blue pen, just write 2 words, thank you. Kind of like saying when you give them people a card that you're thanking them for doing business with you. But I used to make this commitment that I would not go home till I got rid of those 20 cards. And I would do it when I went in a restaurant. I'd leave a card on the table with my tip. I would give a card to anyone that I would meet. If I was in the market and there was someone standing there, I'd say, hey, forgive me for being a little forward, but I am here locally in the real estate business, and my upper management asked me to do something. I hope you won't mind, but they said give out cards to people even those you've never met. Would you be offended if I offered you my card? And then you take the card, you point it to them and just say one word, here, and they will take your card. And there's one more out there of activity that can all of a sudden, and I had this happen. I remember one night, 10 o'clock at night, I was driving home, felt my shirt pocket, and I had one stinking card left. And I thought, what can I do? Well, there was only one business open back then at 10 at night. It was a gas station. And I pulled in and, of course, went into the attendant and said, hi, I'm Tom Hopkins. I'm here local in the real estate business, and I've been given an assignment to not go home without giving out a certain number of cards, and I have one left. Would you be offended if I gave it to you? And he took my darn card, looked at it, he says, you're in real estate? I said, yes. He goes, that's amazing, because my aunt and uncle are coming out tomorrow because they're being transferred here to this area, and they're looking for homes. And I thought, my God, there is an example of getting rid of a card and all of a sudden being at the right time, the right place to get a lead. And of course, I not only found them a home, but numerous friends and relatives over the 8 years that I was in the business. This happened when I would actively, productivity-wise, give out business cards. Today, it's a lot different, but you've got to make contact, because your contacts are going to build the activity that ends up with the productivity. So important, okay?
And as you're listening or watching right now, like, how could you transfer that simple model Tom just shared with you, even online? Could you make an effort, a concerted effort to do that on LinkedIn or Alignable or wherever your perfect potential clients might be, your champions, so to speak? Like, it's so much simpler in a lot of ways. However, don't fall victim to the traps of distraction, right? Don't fall victim to the traps of distraction out there. Productivity, activities that are productive are what matter, right? Not now how many likes you got or how many comments you got or these vanity metrics, but how many real conversations, how many real connections do you make? Right. And if
and what I'm finding, and what I'm finding, Dan, is the true entrepreneurs, the top producers, they live by an F word called focus, meaning they are always focusing on trying to do the most productive thing possible. And the folks right now observing us, many years ago, a great successful man gave me 12 words. I asked him, I says, you're very wealthy. I am broke. You can see I don't have a car. I'm on a motorcycle, but I've heard you make a lot of money and I'd love to pick your brains. And he walked me back into his office and he pointed on his desk and there was a little card and it said, I must do the most productive thing possible at every given moment. And I took those 12 words and I put them on my desk. I put them in my home. I even taught my children when they were just kids. I said, look, you've got to walk down. We had a 2-story home. You've got to walk down the stairs to get to the front door to go to school or home, wherever. And I'd love you to do Dad a favor. Just read these words as you go down the stairs. And I put all these little placards. And the one I had them, again, internalize is I must do, not I might do, or I hope I will. I must do the most productive thing possible at every given moment. You live by those 12 words and you're going to have the best year. And this is going to be building the momentum for next year, which I hope everybody realizes that what you do between now and December is going to build the momentum to have the next year be a fabulous year. But while everybody is sitting and waiting and scared to death on what's going on, just keep on active, moving, excited. And don't forget that word. Whatever's happening, you have to be excited. Excited about life, excited about free enterprise, excited about capitalism, excited about serving. Stay excited because people can't say no to someone who is enthusiastically excited about what they do.
That is so true. People will always be more impressed with the height of your enthusiasm than the depth of your knowledge. So
Exactly.
pay close attention to what Tom shares with you here. Now, Tom, you've made it give reference to several people over time that you've had a chance to come in connection with, or I don't know if you'd call it mentoring with,
Sure,
or coaching with, or something like. Who's been your favorite? You mentioned Rose earlier, so maybe I don't know if
yeah,
she's.
I'll tell you the folks that most changed my life. Now, the first one, the younger people in the room or watching wouldn't know, but J. Douglas Edwards really had a title, the father of American selling. And he was my first mentor. I went to his seminar, became one of his top graduates. Earl Nightingale was one of my neighbors and a great author. And you can still get the Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret, which is her first book, written in the late 30s and early 40s. And that book was life-changing for me. Also, Jim Rohn, who's not with us anymore, but his products are still available at Amazon, where mine are. Glenna Salisbury was a woman that was one of the top producers, and then also Rita Davenport, who was one of the top people in business, maybe one of the few women, and I'm not being negative, but she made $1 million of income a year, and one of the very few women back when she did it was like one of the few. And so I've had these people as mentors. And that's what I'd love to suggest you folks that are viewing us do. Look for someone in your area. You can go to the Chamber of Commerce. You all have a Chamber of Commerce. And if you walked in and grabbed one of the people working there and said, I'm in business here and one of your members, but I'd love to know what folks and what companies really seem to do are the most productive. And of course, they even right away say, well, old Jim Smith, he's got that, computer company around the corner, and they're bringing in so much activity. And so now you make some notes of people. Then, of course, when you call them, always ask for their manager. And see, the reason you do is if you try to find out the office manager, and when you get the manager, say, Mr. Smith or Johnson, whatever, I was asking about someone who was doing a great job of serving with their product or service. And your man, Don Johnson, was mentioned. And I thought I'd let you know that, but I'm going to try to meet with him and just congratulate him. And hopefully I can send him some business, which will be good for you and your company. So I'd sure love to meet with him. Would you mind if you let him know that I'm going to be trying to call him? It's Tom Hopkins. The name of my company is this. And I used to get the managers saying, hey, here's an income productivity source. So I'm going to make sure he gets together with that person. And of course, I would end up meeting that person and we'd have a relationship. And we'd try to meet periodically and refer leads back and forth. And this is how you build a successful career, doing these little things, which in our brief little time, we're just scraping the surface. But again, it's a wonderful business. And I think the people listening, I hope, will also do me a favor. Take advantage of your educational resources, books, recordings, your podcast, what we're doing here with Dan. Take advantage of it. Make notes. A person can say one sentence that can change your life. In fact, I would love to have the folks viewing us realize that I think that one of my keys and one of their keys should be work harder. Listen carefully. Work harder on yourself than you do on your sales job to become a person that people like, trust, and want to listen to. And whenever I met people, I said, I'm going to try to get them to like me first, trust me that I'll be telling the truth and have empathy for them, And then, of course, want to listen to what I'm saying. And if you can create rapport with people, establish a relationship, a good feeling, have them bring down their darn defense barriers about selling, about what's happening, and create a relationship. And please don't forget to keep in touch and become a follow-up specialist. Here's an idea for you. You may want to sit down and go through all your clients and find out those that work in a business that's only open, let's say, from 9 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon. Those people I used to file, and I want to not have a lot of conversation, but keep in touch. And when I got so busy, my 5th, 6th, 7th year, 8th year, I had to find creative ways to make contact, but not spend too much time. So I used to 9 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock, 9, 10 o'clock. I'd be home sitting in front of the fire, but I would take out these people that worked in a business, and I'd call their business, not their home. I don't want to call them at home at 10 o'clock at night. I'd call their business where I knew they were not there. And of course, I'd call, they'd answer the phone like all businesses do. Hi, this is Tom Hopkins, and I'm calling to just leave a message for Jim Smith. Hey, Jim, it's Tom. It's 10 o'clock at night, and I'm just wanting to keep in touch with my people that I serve. And I wanted to say hi, and I wish you, when you come in and hear this message, that you have a great day tomorrow. Hey, all the best. Hey, thanks for being a valued client. Bye. Now, that took 10 seconds, 15 seconds. But they get in the morning, okay, let's check my messages. And there I am. And I try to do this every week, where they got a message early in the morning on the telephone from me saying hi, wishing them a great morning. I didn't waste time. I didn't have them start asking me questions. And again, life in a way is a numbers game to begin with. Get your numbers and your activity up, and I promise you this next month or 2 or 3 will be much better as to your income.
And as you're listening or watching right now, how would these golden nuggets that Tom has just shared with you impact your business today, tomorrow, next week, next month, and over the next several decades? This is why he is a champion at building sales champions, like you, like me, like all of us. Why? Because this isn't about tactical things or just one-off things. These are human-based principles.
That's right. That's
right. We call it the HOP: humanize it, optimize it, personalize it. Tom is a master at that. And there's so much wisdom that he has shared with you here. Now, Tom, if somebody wants to get in touch with you and they go, man, I'd like to have him as a mentor. I know you have all kinds of resources for people to start with. How can people connect with you, contact you, learn more? I mean, books, audio programs, training programs, and a whole lot more.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate that Amazon has been so wonderful to really be our marketing arm. And they have all my books and CDs and DVDs. And if a person calls Amazon and just says, I want the Tom Hopkins product line, they'll get all of them. And as I mentioned, or if I didn't, they're discounting them tremendously right now. So I think the book that used to be $24 or $5, they're selling for $8. So you might want to go to Amazon and just see if there's something that might add to your long-term success. Because as I mentioned, if you love what you do, don't be afraid to share the ideas with others, because we all need to work together. In today's world, it's got to be almost a team effort to work with the folks in your company, your clientele, become a servant to others, give more than people expect in all areas of your life, and they'll be the path to your door, hopefully forever.
Forever. Is that what you want? You do, right? Well, then I encourage you, apply what Tom has been sharing with you here today. Now, Tom, as we wind this down and wrap this up, what's something I should have asked you that I didn't get a chance to ask you that would be valuable today?
I would say one of the most important things they can do is I would love them to take those 12 words. I know we've talked about them, but write the 12 words where you can read them. I must do the most productive thing possible at every given moment. And if you'll start running your life by that, and also I'd like you to start another habit. Spend 5 minutes before you go to sleep. Now, this is just before you get in bed, and take some type of your computer, your book, and write down the 6 most important things you must do in order of priority tomorrow. Now, something happens. If you look at your life, both your family, your friends, your business, and you've got to come up with the 6 things that you have to do, starting with priority of number 1. And if you'll write them down, not only will you sleep better because you've done something very productive in the last 5 minutes of that day, your mind will work on those 6 things, even in your subconscious while you're sleeping. You'll wake up better prepared. And so I try to always have ideas that you can do starting tonight. So I'd hope to have you sit down with your planner and say, okay, I'm going to pick in order of priority the 6 most important things I'm going to do tomorrow. And I'm going to get up and get those done. And if you do that, you watch how your income starts to soar. And if that happens because of our short time, then I'm doing what I love to do, teaching others to be better and have a better life. It was great.
There you have it. He's Tom Hopkins. I encourage you, take action with what he's been sharing with you. Your 6 habits, the 12 key words. I must do the most productive thing at every given moment. Work harder on yourself than your sales job, and that you become a person that people trust, they like, and they want to listen to what you're saying, and a whole lot more. And again, you can come back to this episode at growthtofreedom.com/310. That's growthtofreedom.com/310. Now, obviously this journey that we are all on, Tom, it's a team sport. You brought up the idea a little bit earlier. It's a team sport, right? It takes a village for success. And, you've been, married for a long, long time. We should do a separate podcast on the secret to a great marriage in a selling business, because a lot of people in the selling business sometimes end up, with, breakups and a lot of other mishaps, right? If you were going to turn to your wife, right, right now and just say, hey, thank you for how she's shown up for you to allow you to be the champion you are, to champion others.
I can't tell you how Michelle, my wife, is not only the most supportive person for what I do, but she is so willing to take care of things. Well, I do have to go out on the road to do a seminar, and she is a true blessing. And I just think that if you have a wife or a husband, try to commit it to be a partnership and be supportive of each other. And if you both help each other become better than they are, then you'll be better as well. And I didn't know we would have that as part of our discussion, but she got this thing started and she's probably listening to me. So Michelle, my darling, thank you for being you and letting me be me. We make a great team. Don't you agree?
And imagine having the ability to have Tom as a coach, as a mentor, as a guide on this journey to be better at helping more people, impacting more people, contributing to more people's lives, being a champion in your community, champion in your company, champion in your family, and a whole lot more. If you want that, we're only giving you a glimpse of Tom's wisdom. I encourage you, go to Amazon right now, not in 5 minutes, not in 20, right now. Open up a separate page, open up a browser, go to Amazon. You know where it is. Go to Amazon, look up Tom Hopkins, find some resource. The best way you can say thank you for Tom and his time is sharing with you. Go get a resource, whether it's audio, because maybe you like audio, or it's video, or it's a book, whatever that mechanism is for you, the best way you learn, take advantage of some of those resources. And then just see what you can do to reach out to him and his company as well. You can go look him up on Google at Tom Hopkins. He's been around for decades. He's a living legend, and you're getting a chance to experience a living legend here today. So Tom, I have to say, I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful for you to share, for me, what's been a catalyst. I mean, you were an instigator, an igniter, a catalyst for me and my business. I was in my 20s when I started my very first company. There was something that you had created that you don't know about. I'm sharing the story right now, that you had an assessment many years ago that I took, and I was fascinated. And this was, you popularized it for me and a lot of our clients way before assessments became so mainstream today. But I took that idea to a niche industry, created our own version of it for evaluating people and their sales teams. And I mean, it helped us generate. I was 22 years old, and it gave us a unique differentiator, which you talk a lot about in a lot of your materials, on top of just technique type stuff. And I can't tell you how valuable it's been for me, all the tools, audios I've participated in, training programs, your books, and a whole lot more. So I'm incredibly grateful that, here it is many years later that we get a chance to, chat and share and help other people. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Dan. All the best to you and all of the wonderful people that we talked to today. Thank you again, Dan.
You're welcome. There you have it. I want to encourage you, take action with what Tom has shared with you. I've got multiple pages of notes here. Again, you can come back for the show notes, the quotes, the resources, the tools, and a whole lot more. You can do that at growththefreedom.com/310. That's growththefreedom.com/310. If you never want to miss an episode, go to growththefreedom.com/subscribe. That's growththefreedom.com/subscribe. Seize the day, make it a great week, and go be a champion for others right now. That's it for now. We'll see you on another session of growththefreedom.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of growththefreedom.com. Are you struggling to get a steady flow of new clients every day, or maybe hit a plateau or hit a wall in growing your business? Well, let's help you solve this problem today. Let's review your business and have a conversation. You can do that for free today at breakthroughstrategycall.com. That's breakthroughstrategycall.com. In addition, if you're looking for a simple way to implement some of what we've been talking about in today's episode, I want to encourage you to get our free small business toolkit. You can get that at activate.breakthrough3x.com. That's activate.breakthrough3x.com. If you'd like access to the special resources and all the show notes for this special episode, make sure to visit growththefreedom.com.